Answers of an Alien from Andromeda, Video 160, July, 2019. Hi friends. We had a sowing period on several planets in terraforming and nearby solar systems, and our fleet participated in various adaptations and interactions with societies beginning their first relationship with this regional CG. We had little rest, which prevented me from having moments of contact with these my friends. Sorry again by this delay, but I'm just one member of our crew. Questions. Dear Mithy, we who work at sea, fishing, notice changes during the years. Could you please explain why fish is said to spawn at 4 degrees when the bottom temperature is around 9 degrees many places in the North Sea, and will this stabilize? Why do we believe that we catch less fish around full moon? What happens to the fish like saithe and cod during this period? Do they migrate to deeper depths and why? Please help us clarify the behavior of fish and what to expect in the future. Cheers. See Andre, these cold water fish always try to spawn in cooler waters to keep their shoal in the cycles of currents where they have been generated by generations, where at lower temperatures there are fewer predators circulating through them, because predators will seek shoals in warmer waters. In the case of the moonlight, shoals of various types of fish have the behavior of hiding in deeper waters or shaded areas, caused by shallow of underwater shores or islands, because excessive light exposes the shoal too much, making it very much targeted, easier for predators that invariably follow these shoals. In the future, changing temperatures in the ocean currents due to the repositioning of the geographic poles, you will have to adapt to new fishing regions to get results. Dear Mithy, earliest archaeological evidence of Shivlinga worship comes from the remains of the Harappa culture. Do you have any information in Galactic Community Database for what the meaning is of this structure? Thank you. Nigel, these pieces were drinkers. The mentors of the time provided, as a gift, a programmed quantum mass with nanocomponents that draw water from the air in proportion to the thickness of the layer applied to the central pillar. The special mass was spread in good quantity by some regions and many had access to it. Over the years, most of the pieces have been scraped to try to reuse the dough in other parts, but once applied its effect will fade if a reuse is attempted. Mithy, do you have any information regarding the death of tourists in the northern Urals between the mountain Kolatsyakal 1967 meters and a nameless height of 905? There are many rumors and versions about this tragedy, but no one came together in one. What actually happened on that terrible day on February 2, 1959, when a group of 9 tourists, headed by Igor Dyatlov, died under the circumstances that were not fully clarified? German. This incident was caused by unclassified military tests of devices to generate energy fields to paralyze the central nervous system and vision effects. One of these artifacts exploded near the camp at night, causing everyone to panic and run away without understanding what was happening. The violent displacement of air allied to the field of microwaves generated by the explosion caused the physical injuries and the total disorientation of the whole group. So those who did not fall into ravines became disoriented, and could not return to camp in the dark night, dying quickly of hypothermia. You mentioned many times Atlantis. Brasilis Saxis towns sank and are still submerged, but what of the Rakat structure, Eye of the Sahara? Is it a lost city of Atlantis that Plato described in his dialogues? Share with us details please. The Atlantis and Brasilis civilizations were very large, and spread out over several regions. Some Saxis cities are buried in the continental areas and some buildings have already been explored by archaeologists. The cradle of Atlantis, North City, and all its technological and historical centers was submerged there. What you mention as Eye of the Sahara was a major cosmopolitan trading city up to 12,000 years ago, maintaining Atlantis interests, among others such as Saxis, Brasilis, and Sumerians, and maintain aircraft routes that interconnected the various cities around the planet, maintaining relations commercial with Mayans and Incas, as well as Aztecs through another city maintained in the Bermuda region in its Central America. Meetings with the leaders of the America civilizations were held at the place called by you as Easter Island. Mithy, You recently spoke of no longer being a foreign volunteer unit, which gives you the chance to speak a little more openly. Could you please elaborate on what this means moving forward as we continue to ask you questions? Andrew, questions can be asked more freely with certainty, and I will answer as much as I can, of course based on some minimal standards imposed by CG. Mithy, please tell us about a certain territory called Tartary, which was located between the Caspian Sea to the Pacific Ocean and to the borders of China and India. There is a version that this empire was very developed and was destroyed by some powerful weapon around the 17th and 18th centuries? Thank you very much. Maimed, a race that maintains bases in the region of the Tibetan Plateau, that guided diverse colonial Asian cultures in the planet for thousands of years, denominated by some, KIPCHS, including by Mongols and Tatars. This race installed hundreds of units in ancient times, equipment of defense against reptilian attacks, such which are being withdrawn in several regions by the Arcturians today. Many leaders have attempted to reuse such unclogged equipment for use as a weapon, and some units have generated random energy fields that have totally eliminated some civilizations, including all the administrative elite of the empire, in whose center were its scientific and military centers. Mithy, we have legends here of King Arthur and Merlin the magician. Arthur is said to be a British king who defeated the Saxon Saxus army in the 5th century. Did Arthur and Merlin really exist historically, or are these folklore brought from other worlds, or is there anything you can tell us about them? Saxons and Saxus are unrelated things. These are folklore and stories that were created by the minstrels of the time to ennoble and ameliorate the atrocities committed by the kings to dominate and plunder other peoples in the name of their own grandeur. The stories, always created by the victors, are always the ones that end up giving the people a false image, legends and false truths, with the purpose of creating false idols to be revered by his people. Mithy, according to coordinates 43 degrees 04 27.58 92 degrees 48 48.56 there is an unusual base in China. Answer please, for what and by whom it was used? What are the glowing symbols in the form of the number 8 and how it was created? Pavel Petrov, you see, I cannot mention much about these places because there are specific developments in technologies that China has developed with its extraterrestrial partners in an almost one-sided way. They want to provide all that these allies need to occupy cities and facilities built specifically to infrastructure that relationship they want in the near future. The 8 marks are actually landing gear tags of various models of small cargo ships that parked on the site with seedlings before they finished the parking lanes. Mithy, how can we defend against 5G technology, and what danger, if it is any, this technology carry? Pank, this 5G technology was developed by re-engineering old transmitters, coupled with material recovered from accidents with some old alien spacecraft. Finally they have come up with a type of transmission that can still be picked up by our communication sensors as of today. The equipment developed by you, because they are very low-power transceivers, will not represent an imminent danger to your race or the environment, but if this power is enlarged in an irresponsible way, it could cause damage in the medium term, yes. Because of the equipment being installed, it appears that there will be no dangerous impact, but control over all system users will be total, limiting privacy and individualism, as your appliances, cars and other devices will be designed to provide data to this new system in real time. Mithy, be kind please and tell us about the anomalous zone which is located in Russia, in the Perm region in the village of Malevka. Tell us exactly how the strange anomalous zone appeared there and why aliens show great interest in it. Locals say that they witnessed the landing of flying saucers on this zone, as well as some had contact with these aliens. What are our older brothers doing in that area? German, this is a region where a mixed base of operations has been operating for many centuries and is still operational. It deals mainly with environmental and fauna balance of flora and fauna. Mithy, it seems we are seeing the beginning of geopolitical change, and the elites are to be tried and judged for the atrocities placed on the people. In video 114, you stated, Russians and Middle East will take care of the West, and China will take care of Asia and Europe. Has this changed since the ultimate trump card is now trying to bring peace to all those who were once enemies in a positive light to unite all nations once and for all? Tammy, as you may note, the nations today are only barking at each other like dogs that bark to scare, but there have been no more actual assaults. The leaders of the elite know that they are facing much greater problems than their regional counterparts. They are aware that much will be done when direct contacts begin, even though the contacts will not all be centralized politically, but directly with the community leaders. This worries them as they will inevitably lose control over the situation, and that means the gradual loss of power of control over the masses. You have an old saying of yourselves that says, if you cannot face them, join them, and this is what your elites are desperately trying to do by putting their minions as regional leaders, as if this tactic would not be detected by the agents of CG. You will be going through interesting moments from the political point of view in this new period. Mithy, in video 158 from last November you told us that it looks like there is a good chance that open contact with galactic community will begin this year. By how things developed in the 6 months that passed, do you still believe it could happen in this time frame, and what factors need to be fulfilled for this? Thank you. Yuval, as I mentioned in the previous answer, for good observers things are already happening. Uneffective generalized contact will be decided by the CG according to the events or obstacles that its elites try to create to postpone the events to the maximum. When dealing with a class of psychopath kind of elite, it is not easy to predict all the acts of exception that can be created by them. Mithy, about Saturn's moon Titan, I would like some information on it. Is there for example a life in any manifestation? 2. The role of satellites, why do we? Why is there only one on Earth? Can we have another moon? Why are there so many of them on Saturn? Nikolay Nikishin, the satellite of Jupiter called by US Titan, is a large reservoir of icy gases, including many of them in a liquid state beneath the surface. There are thousands of types of bacteria, enzymes and other organisms that can coexist and metabolize with these gases, but it is not a place compatible with superior animal life. The Earth has only one natural satellite that is almost a binary, the rest are small rocks that do not influence the day-to-day of the planet. The Earth may even have more moons, as long as it captures them conveniently in an eventual passage near its gravitational force, but this is very unlikely to happen. Large gaseous planets in mass and gravitational force like Saturn and Jupiter have many moons by having a much stronger capture power, and will still continue to capture other moons for sure. Every time your scientists announce that they have identified a new moon on planets in your solar system, you can be sure that they are new, duly captured moons. Dear Mithy, you mentioned a while back that the last Mars lander was delivered and placed on Mars helped by the reptilians. In the last video you said that China's lander had help. Can you tell us without violating any guidelines what race is helping this government with their space explorations? Michael Norton, because they were harmless equipment, and placed only to gather information. In the case of the Moon the camelopardalus put it in the correct position to move. In the case of Mars, everything is staged because the human scientists themselves living in the colony there play the role of creating illusions to justify the money spent on these facade operations. Mithy, can you tell about these objects what happened and how long ago? In Antarctica 75 degrees 046.98 at 0 degree 452.71 E column and on the South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands 54 degrees 39.43 S 36 degrees 11.42 W object it looks like he took down the top. Andrei Neves, this photo shows what appears to be an ocean bottom prospecting small rig that for some reason was abandoned at the topmost location for many hundreds of years, and eventually slipped due to the weakening of the ice sheet that occurred throughout this region. Andrei Neves, this photo shows what appears to be an ocean bottom prospecting small rig that for some reason was abandoned at the topmost location for many hundreds of years, and eventually slipped due to the weakening of the ice sheet that occurred throughout this region. This type of equipment on a large scale is what leaves marks like these that see be added below as a sample, marks that can be observed by almost the whole bottom of the oceans of the planet. The second photo shows a still operational research base on the ice. The entrance at the top of the photo is the entrance to that base, which is all protected by a force field where only authorized personnel can circulate. Your governments know this, but nothing can be done about it. Some good-intended scientists are increasingly proposing the cyclical nature of grand solar minimum and solar micronova. Will the upcoming solar cycles be progressively weaker, and how cyclical is a solar micronova or superflare? Is it right to assume that such natural events will no longer be needed in the new reality of our planet? Novene, see, the crew lines have adjusted the new frequency of your sun's beating, and their behavior in this new phase tends to be milder, so the data used by your scientists based on past events are in many ways outdated with respect to behavior's future of your sun. Therefore, these forecasts cannot be taken into account. Mithy, are you, or possibly, your colleagues aware of any significant historical artifacts and/or indicators, hidden anywhere in what we refer to as the Grand Canyon, which would lead to a substantial change in understanding of our own origins and history on this planet? Mike, there existed a large humanoid civilization in that region thousands of years ago, but they left the region after a few generations and migrated north where the abundance of resources was greater. You see, like many other civilizations that passed through this planet for development, many of them did not have an impact on the history of the humanoids that today dominate the cultures in the planet, because they were races that did not mix neither ethnically nor culturally. In fact, these trinkets among thousands of others only serve as evidence to corroborate the passage of many other cultures that have used this planet as a place of development. Mithy, a deadly heat wave called the Rex Block is hitting Europe and may become the new normal. Are these extreme temperatures resulting from the pole shift, man-made, or something else? Rho, as I once mentioned, the Moon's orbit has been repositioned by the movement of the planet's nucleus that maintains the gravitational tunnels. This change modifies the magnetic field, which in turn will gradually repositioning the geographic poles. The first changes are felt in the climate, sea currents and atmosphere, and these changes may be dramatic in some regions. As I have already mentioned, communities will have to readapt in their regions, since agricultural production will have to be replaced by others more compatible with the new climate. Mithy, can you tell us about the ship movements around and from the Sun, please? Karen, the movement is great in the system because with the orbital rearrangement that is being executed adding to the terraforming of Venus, many races are currently circulating to support these operations. Mithy, if we are to participate we have to be informed, but we are in the dark. How could our time be used more efficiently to bring about CG plans for Earth? We want to actively add value to this operation. The best you can have now is to keep your balance and have the patience to wait. The CG releasing the direct contacts, everything could be explained and agreed with their volunteers. Many possibilities for cooperation may occur regionally. Mithy, our scientists are baffled by inductance of the magnetic fields. Can you say anything about this? Can this interactions negatively affect human body or mind? The inductance of a magnetic field generated on other conductors is very old knowledge. I do not know what they might not understand at that time of events, since everything that relates in matter works with magnetism and inductance. This relativity does not cause any harm to living beings. What they still do not understand is that there are other types of magnetism that allow you to interact between non-metallic objects. There you will be finding one of the basic principles of the quantum interaction of which your scientists know practically nothing at the moment. Mithy, you have said 90% of all the work is happening behind the scenes in transitioning elite domination. Are any of the recent arrests of elite pawns an indication of progress? Much influence of the Pleiadians is being active behind the scenes. You can be sure that this progress is the result of the interaction of their agents infiltrating your government departments. Mythy about Venus changes. The last photos, if they are real, shows the Venus surface blue as it never was. As I said, Venus is being terraformed in record time. With a process of direct insertion of infrastructure for fauna and flora, soon the planet will look alive and maintain its biological balance between forests and oceans. About Taos, if the orbit is already fixed, and where can it be found? Approximate distance, quadrant or constellation for the reference. The orbit of Taos has not yet been finalized. Possibly it will be positioned between Saturn and Jupiter, but who will define it will be the group of scientists of Taos with the consent of the scientists of the CG. In the past few weeks, individuals all over the world are reportedly seeing mysterious lights flashing on the Moon too. Could be thruster working or something else? Certainly thrusters are being used as buffers of the orbital changes of the Moon. As I have already warned, all this movement will be easily observable by your amateur astronomers. I am happy to return from these missions and intend to be at our Mars base for a longer period. I hope all of you, my friends, are well.